Hello, everybody. I'm John Self. As we come on live today for our Wednesday, Thursday afternoon office hours, you can hear probably a buzzing, beeping in the background. We're having a little excitement. There may be a fire, and so I'm staying here until the fire trucks tell me to get the hell out. Probably just a false alarm or some contractors drilled into the sprinkler system again. That happens apparently quite a bit. So today, I'm delighted you're with us. And we have a program that I originally was scheduling for much later in the cycle. But let me share with you, and I won't use a name because I really respect this person a great deal, a very talented leader, and an executive who's had some really nice work experiences and made a lot of contributions to organizations. And he is now, kind of hearing that well, he's in the market again, and he's hearing because of a layoff and a consolidation, and he's hearing that people are saying that he's constantly getting fired. And, I thought, I have heard this many times before, and I think we need to address this now. Why? Because the job market's not getting any better. More people are flowing into the job market. It's not just going to be the government workers. It's going to be a little bit more widespread. The market was down again. There's no sight, no end in sight for when it's going to bottom out. And the other thing most people don't realize is of the 80 to 100,000 workers that are being laid off by the federal government, only about 20% of those people are in Washington. The rest are scattered all over the United States. So you may be in a small Alabama town, but you may have displaced laid off government workers. So this is a kind of a challenging situation. And we wanted to address this today to help you sort of be on the alert so that you don't have a great job opportunity being you were not going to be undercut in an important job search. And this happens. It's called the whisper campaign, and it can quickly and quietly trash your hopes. So there are 5 important lessons that you must remember as you go through a job search. First of all, number 1, a lie can travel halfway around the world before the truth puts on its shoes. So you cannot assume that because you know your record, you know you've done a good job, and people close to you know your record and know you've done a good job, that should be enough. No, that's not. You have to be very aggressive, and you cannot assume anything. Secondly, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. We'll talk about that in just a minute, but that's somebody said that was a line from the Godfather films. Actually, it's Sun Tzu in the Art of the War, Art of War, and but it means basically you want your friends close. But if you have people that you've upset in the past or people that you're competing with, you really want to stay close to them because you want to know what they're saying about you, and you want to be able to then head that off at the pass, so to speak. Steve Harvey said this, and I think it's very important. Number 3, the people by your side are not always on your side. And that's really important. We tend to be trusting people, and sometimes that can get us into a lot of trouble. I don't want you to be a cynic. I don't want you to be a, paranoid, suspicious individual. I want you just to be comfortable with the fact that the person beside you, you may feel comfortable with them, but you got to keep your antenna alert. You need to be aware because sometimes they're the people that can do the most harm. 4, if you do not tell your story, somebody else will, and it certainly won't be the story you want to be told. And that happens a great deal. People just assume that their record will speak for itself. People assume that because they've done a good job and other people, respect them, that's enough. No, it's not. Not anymore. Guard your brand with the utmost zeal. This is point 5. You really have to be on alert now. You need to vet your references carefully. I can't tell you how many times we would get late into a CEO search or chief operating officer search or chief medical officer search, and we'd be checking references and we would encounter what we call damning by faint praise. And let me just give you an example what that is. Well, he wasn't as arrogant as we thought he would be, or he was really successful, but he wasn't as successful as we had hoped he would be. And we were delighted to have him here, and we were glad he got a chance to move on in his career, but he wasn't as successful as we thought he would be here. That's damning by faint praise. In other words, they say nice things about you, but they undercut it at the end. And some people, they do that. So that's why it's really, really important for you to vet your references carefully. Guarding against death by whispering. That's the theme of our presentation today. It'll take about 30, 35 minutes, I hope, if that lasts that long. This is just a sort of an important lesson, important coaching session. It'll be available for replay on our YouTube channel later today. This is I think, again, a pretty important topic. It's not a real meaty, heavyweight topic, but it's one that you have to put into your job search toolkit, your career management toolkit. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. If this is your first time to come through to join one of our sessions, I spent 27 years in global executive search, working across the U.S., and I'd worked in 6 different countries on 4 different continents. And the reason I'm not in executive search anymore is that after 42 years of traveling, and not all of it in search, but a lot of it in business development, I decided I'd had all that fun I wanted. And so I now coach from a TV studio in Tyler, Texas, which is outside of Dallas. And I absolutely love what I do. My passion is to help people get back to work, help managers, supervisors, executives, and C-suite executives to regain their footing and get back into the job market. And we are in the midst of a white collar recession, and that's a challenge. And so we're getting busier and busier each day, but it's something I enjoy doing. And if we can help you in the future, please feel free to call us. I've completed hundreds of searches for managers, executives in the C-suite. So I've had a lot of experience. I know how the process works, and I know what you have to watch for. I've probably interviewed close to 9,000 applicants. And I will tell you this, a lot of people think they're really good at interviewing. Most of them are average. Okay. When you interview that many people, you break it down. A lot of people's average. Now that's not bad. Average is good. But in this market, as competitive as it is, you have to be very good or elite. And so that's one of the things we teach in our master class on interviewing. I've taught the interview course for a global professional association. I did that for about, total of about 15 years, 10 when I was the lead faculty member. So I've had a lot of experience in interviewing. I've had a lot of experience in teaching interviewing. And in my earlier life, I hate to admit this because some people may tune me out, but I was a crime writer and investigative reporter for the Houston Post. And I interviewed a lot of people who didn't want to tell me anything. So I'm a pretty good interviewer, and I pretty much know how to help people deal with the subjects that could be kind of sensitive or controversial. And we have a great system to help you improve your interviewing skills. So our agenda today is, what is a whisper campaign and why does it happen? The second point we want to cover is there are 3 critical elements to combat this threat. And finally, the steps you can take to mitigate this activity and preserve your reputation. Now, what is a whisper campaign? Well, it's idle gossip, and sometimes it's not with any ill intent. It's just people gossip. Listen, you know who some of the worst gossips in the world are? Executive recruiters. So you want to be careful what you confide into an executive recruiter, because they're like HR people. I mean, they know how to manipulate information when it serves their purpose. And I'm not anti-HR or anti-recruiter. I was a recruiter for 27 years, but I've been around them at the cocktail bar and listened to them talk about other candidates. And they may share the information among themselves, especially if someone was unprofessional or someone showed up late or someone, was thrown out of an organization and it's all been covered up. They'll share that information. So you have to be very aware. It's not meant, in that case, it's not meant to be vindictive or retribution, or it's not negative. It's just sharing information. So I categorize that as idle gossip. There are some people who engage in this process for retribution. And if you are a senior executive, you've made numerous decisions over time that basically you may have upset people. You may have upset somebody that you worked for. You may have upset somebody who worked for you. You may have upset somebody who's in an adjoining silo. And so you have to be aware that sometimes people will try to get even. And it's so retribution they'll take their retribution at the most inconvenient time for you. The next thing, and the fire department has shown up now, but I don't think it's anything urgent because I didn't hear any sirens. Next thing they'll do this for, and the reason it happens is you may go into a search. You always want to ask, is there an internal candidate? I have seen at least 5 or 6 searches where the behavior about the internal candidates was really shameful. That they had a big following, the candidate was popular, and they went out of their way to look for dirt on any applicant that was submitted from outside. And we had vetted all the people, we knew all the issues, and they were looking at everything from booking.com up and down. People make mistakes in their lives, but that doesn't mean we confine them to permanent purgatory. And that one of these organizations, they did that to 4 or 5 different candidates because they wanted their candidate to win. And they justified this unethical, immoral behavior because they were loyal to their friend, to their colleague. So you have to be aware, if there is an internal candidate, you have to be very, very aware that this could happen. So what can you do? The 3 critical elements to combat this threat. Number one, constant awareness. Current or former colleagues, professional network, your career advisory board, vendors. You need to understand that these people can help you be aware of a whisper campaign. And sometimes it is it's not something you might hear directly. So you want to maintain relationships. When you leave an organization, try to maintain friendships with people in that organization because they may move on and you need to track with them and stay in touch with them because at some point, maybe another job or 2 jobs down the road, somebody will say, oh, he got fired we're at a certain organization where you have somebody you worked with, you maintain close relationship. You say, well, I can give you a reference of somebody who said I wasn't fired. Sometimes that's something that happens. It's a good way to sort of thwart that. So you want to maintain good awareness of what's going on. You don't want to assume that people would say bad things about you. That's just naive. I mean, you really have to avoid that. So people that can help you track what's going on, especially when you're in a job search, or former colleagues, your professional network, your career advisory board, and your vendors. Now, somebody once asked me, what the hell is a career advisory board? I'm a big believer that when you're moving forward in your career as a young early careerist, that you want to surround yourself with 4 or 5 people that you can go to for advice and to build a relationship. And, so not everybody's willing to help you in that regard, but a lot of older executives or mid-careerists are flattered to be able to turn around and give back to the profession. And instead of pulling up the ladder, they'll extend a hand. Those are the kind of people you want to have on your advisory board. Vendors can also be very, very helpful because they hear things, and salespeople, they have a way of getting information and they can help you kind of track certain things. So anytime you're dealing with a vendor, if you've got somebody that you particularly like, you want to always try to build a relationship with them and then try to stay in touch with them throughout your career as much as you can. Second point is you've got to be mindful. Don't forget former colleagues, people that are upset with your past decisions, rivals for career advancement, et cetera. You just can't assume that those people might not be exactly head of your fan club. So you need to be aware if you had somebody who's that was in conflict with you, and those things happen, and sometimes they're very nasty, and sometimes a CEO has to step in and referee the dispute. But when those things happen, you have to understand that sometimes people will keep a grudge, maintain a grudge. They will seek retribution at the least convenient time for you. So I don't want to say people will do that. I don't want to say it's widespread, but there are people out there that are real jerks. And so you have to be mindful. Don't forget, this shouldn't be an obsession, but you just need to keep a sort of an inventory of where you've been and what might have happened. And you can, using a professional director, you can always track where those people go. So if you're in the American College of Healthcare Executives, for example, and you had a conflict with somebody at a hospital 5 years ago, and if they're still in the industry, you can find out where they are. And if they're in a connection with an organization or in the same community where you're looking for a job, that's just information that would be helpful to you. 3, Again, be aware, be mindful, don't forget, but be aware. It is not uncommon, as I said a minute ago, for supporters of internal candidates to discredit outsiders who pose a serious risk. And I have seen some outright, unbelievably bad behavior. I was just shocked that it happened in a couple of cases. Over time, I guess I was thinking back a minute ago, it's probably 6 to 10 times in a 27-year career, and that's not a lot, but it's just something you need to be aware of. Now, let's stop there and step to the side and take a pause. It hasn't been common in the past, but we're in a different era now. We're in an era where people are getting desperate for jobs, particularly at the management, executive, and senior suite areas. There are more and more people coming into the market looking for jobs, and we're not seeing executive and management job growth. While there's growth in the broader job market, there is a white collar recession still in the executive management ranks. With all the economic uncertainty in the stock market and with all the tariffs, there's no indication that this is going to mitigate in the near future. So, steps to mitigate this career threat. First, don't assume anything. Document your career on all your public profiles to establish first line of defense. You know, I've seen people on their American College of Healthcare Executives profile that hadn't updated in 2 or 3 years. I've seen people who've, been recruited away from one organization and did not really reflect that in their ACHE profile or on their LinkedIn profile. And when you look at their resume, it doesn't give a reason for the reason they made the transition. And you can always just say was recruited by this firm for the CEO position. Okay. That then takes that. If somebody wants to say, oh, they got fired, it's on your resume. If it's on your LinkedIn profile, if it's on your professional profile, that pretty much mitigates anybody trying to whisper campaign about you. But you cannot assume that's not important. This is a detail. And right now in this market, the devil is in the damn details. So you've got to pay attention to those issues. Second, be clear on your resume why you changed jobs. As I just said, it's okay to list that the fire truck's leaving, so we must be safe. It's okay to list that you were recruited away. It's okay to use a firm that led the search that brought you there. And sometimes it's an individual. You can say, was recruited by a corporate executive for this organization or that organization, but make it clear that'll help take some of the edge off the whispers, the rumors, the idle gossip. You want to recruit your references who can attest to your transition. And the fire truck departed. My wife came in earlier to the studio and opened the windows thinking that it would be a nice touch, and all the noise pours in, so I apologize. To number 3, recruit your references who can attest to your transition history. So you have references, superiors, peers, and subordinates that will talk about your performance. It's really important to have a wide variety of references that you can use that would suit the client and their priorities. Some references can talk about certain qualities that one employer may look for. Another reference may be better suited to talk about something else that another employee may be looking for. So you want to be sure that your references are really targeted, but you also need to have people, maybe secondary level references, who will be able to say, yes, I worked with him at this organization. He was recruited away. I know he went to another organization and he was promoted or he was recruited again after 3 or 4 years. So it's good to have those people who are independent. You may have worked with them in the past, but you've maintained a relationship and you can use them to help thwart people who are whispering behind your back. It's just something you want to have in your toolkit. People, when it gets really tight and people get desperate, they will do things that maybe they wouldn't normally do. And I think that's unfortunate. Some people think that's, when all's fair in love and war. Well, yeah, I'm not sure I agree with that. Sometimes these people use this technique because it's just easier for them and they're lazy. In fact, they would be better off if they just became better job candidates, more competitive job candidates. I want to thank you guys for being here today. This was a short group coaching session. If you have any questions, I'm trying to watch the YouTube channels Gosh, let me get that up here and see if we have any questions. If you have any questions, if you're not in the chat box now, understand this is was not highly promoted today, but we're going to be here every Thursday at 4 p.m. and we'll be at Lunch and Learn every Tuesday at noon. And you get a chance to suggest topics that you'd like us to cover. So we'll be back here next Thursday at 4 p.m. Now, this particular presentation will be up on YouTube later today. And if you want to go back and relook at it, or if you heard about it, that's a great place to go see it. And please feel free to like the work that we're doing and refer it to other people. This is something I really enjoy doing, and people have been very kind to me and say that the advice I've given them, the coaching I've given them has been extremely helpful. And we have had a great record at helping people find their next better job. So I want to thank you today. I appreciate you being with us. And remember this, people will misbehave. They will try to generate mischief for you, especially if they want ill will to come to you, or if they're trying to promote their own favored candidate. You just have to be aware of it, and now there's some steps you can take to mitigate this inconvenience, this nuisance, this unethical behavior. Thanks, everybody, and I appreciate you being with us. And I'll see you Tuesday on Lunch and Learn.